So if you look at this and you're confused, saying, well, hang on a minute, that's not the default Windows 98 login screen. You're right, because it's not. Now, I looked up and looked around, and this is pretty much all I can find about this. And it's about Beta 98, a Windows 98 beta. You know, with the version number down here, clearly you can tell that's not, normal RTM 98 SE, FE, doesn't matter, doesn't have the version string there. So clearly it's a beta. But actually this feature is in Plus, and it works kind of weird. See, Windows 98 is weird, alright? It kind of had, like, sort of multi-user support. But it wasn't like it is now in NT. Like, basically 98 was designed around a single user experience, at least sort of feels, and it feels like they just kind of stacked multiple users support like on top of it. It doesn't feel like it's baked in, it just feels like it's an extra, which is weird. So, as a result of that, it feels like it a lot. And Plus has this specific login screen, but the way it gets applied is weird. See, if you already have a account, multiple accounts, whatever, then it shows the default, which looks like 95. It's like long, straight across, and it asks you for the username and the password. There's no list. You have to type it in yourself. Essentially, like if you've ever used XP without the login, like welcome screen, it's that basically, but different, but not as good, I guess, but it's that essentially. And there's a weird kind of behavior about it where if you don't put in a password, it just never shows up again, and it bypasses that, and it basically logs you in without ever having to choose who you are or whatever. It just automatically logs in. And it'll even tell you the first time you set it up, it'll say if you don't put anything in, you'll bypass this screen every time. If you do put a password in and then install Plus later, you'll notice you don't get this. And it's, like I said, very weird because of the fact that 98 didn't have, at least so it feels, multiple user support from the beginning. But it turns out there's actually a way to get that back. This is my 98 setup. We're just gonna go through it, boot it up. This is just how it normally is. Booting takes no time at all. It's just like this is the point where it starts counting RAM, and I gave it a lot, so. But essentially, what you're going to see, as probably most of you who have VMs of 98, is that it just boots up and it does something like this. Type your username and password to log onto Windows. And it's this long, not a list, you have to type it yourself. Doesn't look anything like this. Now, also the way this works is OK and cancel to do two very different things. And Windows does this even today, where basically there's a default user, which is like the template. And then there's basically everybody else. System, NT authority, all that. Although obviously this is 9X, doesn't have NT authority. And it's not NT. But essentially it's the same thing. If you click cancel, which I've changed mine a lot, yours probably won't look exactly like this or sound exactly like this, but if I click cancel, it's going to go in, yeah, we know that. If I click cancel, it's going to go into essentially what's the default user. If you create a new user, it'll look like this. I've set my default user up to basically be like a guest account. Like, basically no access to anything. The start menu's down here, there's like really nothing, very limited. And why I did it, don't know, but it was just fun, so I did it. But essentially, this is the default user that I've repurposed as a guest. And there's basically nothing. Now, you log into the real user, which for me is the only user on the system. And yeah, you could see dramatic change already. And I've installed everything. Whole bunch of shit, essentially. It's all like, don't judge me on it. It's all like kid stuff, memories, you know. Can never beat nostalgia. But as you can see, or as you saw, I guess, from the boot screen, there actually is plus on here, but I don't have this. If you're in the same situation, this is how you go about it. Basically, log off. Or don't log on in the first place. It waits for the startup sound and shutdown sound. I know, it's annoying. But anyway, don't log on in the first place, or just basically log into your default user, which probably has more stuff than mine does, because I set it up that way. But nonetheless, my computer, C, Windows. Yours might complain like these files are hidden, just show them, it's not a big deal. Profiles. Find this folder. You can also, which a lot of people who use Windows don't know, this is like basically since 3.1, you could just type. Like that. You can just type in the window and it'll find, like if you press F, it'll search everything that's F. Don't know why not a lot of people know that, but PRO, profiles, it'll find it. Copy. Paste it somewhere, anywhere, it doesn't matter. I put it on the desktop. Now go to Control Panel. Users. This is going to be the tedious part, depending on your situation. Remove everybody. Delete, yes, for every single one. Close. Passwords. User profiles. All the same. Okay, restart. It's probably going to do the quick version and just restart Windows and not the actual computer, but that's good. And that was invented because PCs were slow as hell back then. Now you're going to see this, which is what I was talking about before. If you don't enter a password, you won't get this prompt again at startup. Do that. And this is now the default profile applied to your account. Again, your default profile will be different depending how you have it set up, or maybe you never touched it, in which case it's just going to be default. Essentially, though, now what you want to do is either install plus, reinstall plus, whatever your case may be, and yes, override the lock. Whoops. Actually select the ISO, not physical drive. And either, if you didn't do it already, add it. If you already have it, reinstall. In my case, I already have it, I'm going to reinstall. Basically, next, let it do its thing. You won't need the product key because you would have already had to put it in when you installed. So you don't have to go, you know, you don't have to go find it. Didn't take all that long, and then finish, restart once again. This reboot's going to take a little bit longer than usual, because if I hit, or if it just goes, you'll see it right there. You can, when the splash screen is up, you can actually hit escape, and it's the same for Linux, where you can hit escape and see what's going on in the background. Any, like, console stuff. But also, if it gets to the point where it's done, it'll do it by itself. At least typically. Again, depends on your system. And if you did it correctly up to this point, you should see the drum. Let it do whatever. Don't have to do any of this. You can uncheck them. Finish. Done. Okay. Now, let's try it. Actually, wait, not yet. Control panel. I was going to see if it worked, but let's just run through the steps and not mess anything up. This is essentially what you want. If you don't get this when you open users in control panel, probably did something wrong. So just start again from hopefully not the beginning. I mean, for me, I can just revert the virtual machine state. Might be nice to make a snapshot beforehand if you're doing this in VMware. But essentially, if you don't get this, just try it from the beginning. I am not responsible for you breaking your system, but this shouldn't. And also, it's honestly not a big deal. If you want this just to get a login screen, don't. It's not that big of a deal just to get this. But if you're on a virtual machine, you have nothing to lose, you really don't care. Whatever, go for it. Basically, add all the users again. Make sure to check all those. Doesn't matter which of these you do. Finish. Wait. And then do what it says. Restart. Now, it's also worth noting 95 does not have this. Doesn't matter OSR 2.5, OSR B, A, none of them, as far as I'm aware, have this. Because this was a beta 98 thing. And there it is. But we're not done yet. Because if you log in, you still don't have all your stuff. So I think you might know where this is going. Cancel or hit escape, because Windows 98 is very secure. And doesn't let you log in if you don't have your credentials, of course, obviously. This, in passwords, the user profiles thing should have went back to normal. Just, you could check that if you want. Should be all good. You can add your password back now safely. Recommended maybe even to do this before the second step, but everything else should be okay. Close out of that, close out of this, and cut, not copy, unless you want to, this. And I think you know where I'm going with this. C, Windows, Profiles, paste. Yes to all, yes to all, yes to all. Always. For everything here. You can now log off and log in again with the new, or should I technically say old, from beta 98, but new and plus for 98, not the 8 plus pack, the new login screen. Now this should be pretty much a one-for-one copy of everything you had. For me, I noticed Maintenance Wizard is like acts like it's never been ran, even though if you go to schedule tasks, everything's there and it's fine. But you could just set that up again or whatever you want to do. Your profiles folder, yeah, this carried over. Delete it. You don't need it. There's a lot of other stuff in here that might honestly just be me. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. And there you go. That's pretty much it. Kind of simple in theory, not really simple in practice. It's kind of weird and windy road. I know, I get it, but try to find or try to follow this to a T if you really want the new login screen and you have the plus pack and everything already downloaded and want to put it on your VM and VMware, go ahead and do it. You can eject the disk now. Not going to need it again. And you're all done. That is how you get this. All that just for a login screen. There might even be some config somewhere, whether it be regedit or the file somewhere, but I wasn't going to go search to find it. It's a whole lot of work when really you could just do this and that's it. I don't know why it works like this. It's weird, and I don't think Microsoft intended for that. But nevertheless, that's how it works. And it's a simple workaround if you really, really, for some reason, want the 98 plus login screen with the list instead of typing it in.